Hello and welcome, Martin. Episode 36. Happy Christmas. We're pretty much there. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Merry Christmas to you too.
Like to see you've got your Christmas hat on. And is that a Christmas jumper you've got as well?
Yeah, I got this from work because I don't have a Christmas. I never had a Christmas jumper, so they bought me this year, and it's a Tesco's Value Christmas jumper, which is basically a grey jumper with the supermarket's logo on it, and it cost about £3.
Yeah, that's right. So the Tesco's brand is the Value brand is like their cheap and cheerful.
You can actually get Valentine's cards like this, Tesco's Value Valentine's card and things like that.
Good stuff. How you doing anyway? You okay?
Yeah, no, very well. Yeah, been very busy, but
Yeah, no worries. Now I had a PC disaster last week. I left my PC. I went to shut my PC down, did the right thing, saw there was an update, hit update and shut down. Came back the next morning and the PC just will not boot again. That's it. Just no booting. It goes into an endless cycle of diagnosing the problem. I don't know if you've seen it, the sarcastic little smiley unhappy face that Windows puts opposite ran into a problem, which nobody wants to see when you are, looking at like your whole life.
It doesn't cheer you up, does it? Yeah.
Don't give me that silly unhappy smiley face thing because and then so I had to reinstall Windows, and the problem with reinstalling Windows is you don't lose any data, but you lose all of your pre-installed programs. You have to reinstall them again because of the registry, and it's just a pest. I mean, everything just has to. So I've been slowly restarting. It's time for a new PC at some point anyway. But yeah. So hence the delay. But we've been busy. We've been busy in the meantime. We are going to talk today about some new patrons. We're going to talk about. Thank you very much, guys. We're going to talk about top 5 Christmas presents that you could ask for or for buy yourself. We're going to talk about how you prepare for a game. We're going to do, Martin, what are we going to do from the scenario point of view?
So Tom Repetti and Tuomo Lukkari have been playing Saluting a General from Friendly Fire. We're going to be seeing how they get on.
That's right, and it's birthday boy Tuomo Lukkari, who.
It is indeed. Just happened to notice that this morning on got a little Facebook thing popped up to tell me that it was Tuomo's birthday. Should we say how old he is?
Nobody knows.
No one knows. I do know.
Oh, do you? But you can say
a mere 47 years old.
Okay, yeah. He's
people say there's no young people coming into the game. We got Tuomo.
That's it. He's flying the flag for the youngsters. So I was going to say to you, happy birthday, and also he's one of our new patrons. So Tuomo, thank you. You're in the tournament next year. Tournament's going to start in January. We also have Steve Solomon and Bob Dengler. So thank you guys. We are going to do another giveaway. We're going to give away two lots of 4 packs of minstrels, because I can't have these on my desk and not eat them.
I've been noticing you've been putting on a little bit of weight.
Yeah. So so we're going to give away two sets of 4 packs of those today. We'll do that later on, and we're going to talk about how to prepare for a game as well. Lots and lots of stuff going on. Now the other thing I want to talk about is something that you've been doing. So you released the first of your training videos.
Yes,
went
that's
down
right.
Very well. So well done on that. And I know you're going to improve on bits and pieces, but in terms of the
got some very, very good feedback actually. It's very, very helpful feedback, and obviously I'm a total novice at doing this, but going to act on all of that feedback and a few other ideas that we've come up with between me and you. So hopefully the second one will be a little bit more professional.
Right. And so the key thing here is we're going to do 4 of these, or you're going to do 4 of these.
Yes.
And they're going to escalate a little bit like the starter kit. You're going to do guns next time, I think.
Correct.
Next one will be tanks, and the next one will be the Japanese.
Yes.
And these are kind of simple scenarios, not even necessarily balanced, are they? I mean,
that's
roughly
correct.
Balanced.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to put the 4 scenarios into a nice format. I've already done 2 of them that we've done. I've created the tank scenario, and then we're going to give them away as to patrons. Every patron can have a copy of the 4 scenarios. So if you want to be a patron, you can get those 4, and it's a great way to show someone to watch the video that you're doing, but also then you can have a copy of the scenario as well for reference. Play it through, give it to a newer player. And
I mean, sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, these are very quick to play scenarios. As you pointed out, not necessarily balanced. They're just simply there for the purpose of kind of sort of practicing the rules. So kind of like the whole idea of kind of like winning or losing isn't perhaps important. You can put the counters out, probably play it out in an hour or hour and a half, even. Just try out all those rules and potentially follow the game online. Perhaps
that's
I
right.
think be a really good learning tool.
And you're absolutely right. I think one of the problems we have with ASL is that because it's such a large time commitment, we are invested in the balance of a scenario because we don't want to feel like it's wasted time or it was just pointless. And I think there aren't enough small scenarios that are just play, just see what happens. And so over as has the whole world's population at the moment seems to be, everyone's getting into chess again because of the Queen's Gambit and things like that. It's a great TV show. And so I've been playing it online again, and I've realised that the value of just playing much shorter, smaller, quicker games, just to see and experiment what happens, and just to see. Now, if every one of your ASL scenarios is 4 hours long, nobody wants to take risks. Nobody wants to, because it feels like it's you don't get enough time, not enough of a playground to experiment in a real kind of scenario. What happens?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think exactly that. And I've played people who are new to the hobby. Very, very new to the hobby. I'm teaching them the rules, and they're concerned about winning and things like that. And I think this might be just a way to like take that out. That the purpose of playing these isn't to win.
Yeah.
Just a playground. Exactly. It's a really good word for it. Yeah.
So your third scenario is going to be some Russian tanks against some Hungarians, both tanks on tanks. And I am looking forward to you playing that one because I want to see how you do it. I did it with a few different victory conditions to give you a little bit of a thought about what you're up to. So like I say, if you are interested in those, we will have copies of those available again to Patreons as soon as you've got to send me over your second scenario.
Yeah.
I've got to create the Japanese one, but there'll be 4. Sometime before, can we commit to having those scenarios designed by, I don't know, January? Is that reasonable?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, it's going to be longer before there are videos for them, but I think that the 4 scenarios will be available.
Excellent.
Early January.
Good stuff. Other thing to point out is on the Scenario Archive there is a new pack available now, which is the best of March Madness from the Kansas City guys. So again, thank you to those guys for their continued support of the archive and this channel. We appreciate that, and we're looking forward to seeing that. So that is 15 scenarios, I think, of the best of the Kansas City guys. So if you haven't, and you didn't want to necessarily pick up all of the packs that the Kansas City guys currently have, pick up that copy. 15 of the best, and even if you don't, support the guys. And thanks again to Dave and the gang over there for their support.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, Martin. Christmas presents.
Okay,
let's talk Christmas presents.
Okay, so we're going 5 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, and these are things that, for example, either you would wish for yourself, or if you were to buy them for yourself, or maybe you could put them on a wish list of what you'd like. And we've taken different approaches to this one, haven't we?
We have a little bit. I quite enjoyed this, actually. I quite enjoyed thinking this through. But so my number 5 is, and I think every ASLer would love to have one of these, an extra large Illuminating Rounds T-shirt. I was even thinking about putting on a bit of extra weight.
Yes.
Just so that I could wear it naturally. I think it would be a great chip magnet.
These will help.
So when I can get over to yours, I'll be tucking into those minstrels and putting on a few extra pounds.
Excellent. No, that's excellent. Okay, so my one was a serious one, and so I thought that what if you've got like kids or you've got a partner who's asking about what they can buy you for ASL. It's new dice, isn't it? Everybody loves dice. It's not just a couple of pounds of cheap and cheerful plastic dice. You're going to be looking for precision dice, or you're going to be looking for particularly novelty dice in terms of things like the Battle School dice. You might look for the Gravity dice. There's a whole set. If you go onto Kickstarter, there are 1,000,001 projects all around dice and how they're perfectly balanced, or they are made from a particular material, or they roll perfectly, whatever it might be. But a new set of dice is always good. New year, new luck, new dice. So yeah, new dice for the ASLR.
That's a good solid ASL answer there.
Yeah.
I think my next one has not been invented yet. I mean, I think in a way I've invented it. I just haven't been able to create it. And that is a vehicle bypass stand or mount.
Mm-hmm.
It's so messy when you've got a cluttered game and you want to move a vehicle into bypass. And I think that if you could have some little legs with a little sort of platform on the top, and you could put a counter on it, and you could position it in between the hexes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With the sort of the infantry and the other counters below it,
yep.
I think that would be absolutely amazing. If somebody invented that and got me that for Christmas, I'd be over the moon.
And so we kind of did invent that, didn't we? We
did.
We put together a 3D model to be able to do that. And the problem is in the dimensions of the stand versus the legs and the width of the legs being too small, I think, in relation to the stand. I think that certain 3D printers need certain proportions.
It might be possible to do it with a metal 3D printer,
right?
Perhaps, but I mean, I don't know anyone with a metal 3D printer, and they're quite expensive, I believe.
Right, and we looked at the cost, and the cost was something like $5 or $6 per stand to even create them. It wasn't cheap.
Well, a friend of mine was able to do it much more cheaper.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I was online looking at their
market. So I suppose he wasn't doing it particularly commercially. Right. But he was expecting to make some money out of making them for like £1.
Right. Okay.
So it's certainly possible. The problem, I think, was he came across the same problem, is that the thickness of the material in the stand wasn't large enough.
Right.
Wasn't thick enough.
Okay.
So we had some technical problems.
Well, and it's a similar thing. So my number 4, and the Ritterkrieg website sells this. So this is the Stack Guards, and this is his son, I believe. I think this is Derek's son, who made this, and it's a great idea. So this is the idea of a stack holder. So it holds a stack of counters with your concealment counter on top, so it doesn't get knocked over or anything like that. Now, unfortunately, they are only in America. You can go to Ritterkrieg, and you can pick up the Stack Guards in different colours, and they are, I think, $24 for a pack of, I think it's 6 or something like that. And you can get them 5/8 inch, or you can get them 1/2 inch, and that's a nice idea. I think if they were easier for us to get to, then we would be picking up some. Maybe what I'll do is ask the guys if we can buy the plans off his son, to be able to print us a few over here. And we'll see if we can do that. But I think it's a really nice idea, because there is, we're all not particularly as nimble or dexterous as we'd like to be around concealment counters. And there's also been, I know this has happened between us, every now and again we have a complete brain freeze and just take a look of what's underneath that concealment counter. I don't know if you've done that in a game.
I don't do that, Dave. You do that.
Someone has done that to me in a proper game. Yeah. In a tournament game.
Phil. Yeah. And Tim did it to me in a tournament game, actually.
And just without any malice, just out of curiosity, isn't it? It's just what's under that? Oh.
Tim exactly said that. He said because he apologised immediately, and he said, I've just sat here wondering what's underneath it, so I just pick the concealment counter up to have a look. It's the most natural and obvious thing to do. Yeah.
So that's like an extra incentive not to do that. We'll have to put mouse traps on them at some point. Stop wandering fingers. But I think that was a nice little.
That's a lovely idea. Yeah, I'd love to have some of those.
Okay, all right.
So my next one also has not been invented yet. Actually, it might have been. I don't, as far as I'm aware. And that's a dice tower that you put real physical dice into. They land in the bottom, but then it tells you what the result is, so you don't have to constantly lean forward. Now, dice towers are differently designed. Some you can see from quite an acute angle, but just over if you're playing all day, sometimes just that little action over and over again, it can be a little bit wearing. So that's what I go for.
A lot of people play Vassal, don't they, with a webcam on a dice tower and just drop dice in there.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to do that? Is that something that's...
I have done that, I think, once. I mean, I just find it a little bit fussy. So I wouldn't. I mean, Toby plays like that, but we don't set up the webcam. We just take each other's words for it. I kind of don't kind of don't mind doing that, but just the idea of getting the webcam and pointing it at a dice tower feels fussy to me.
Yeah.
But I would do it if somebody insisted that's how they wanted to play.
Yeah. It's it does seem like a nice thing to be able to hook into Vassal in a way, like where you drop the dice and then it just writes out at the bottom what the dice were. You know, you can have a sense of it can't be it can't be that hard.
Can't be that hard, as you say.
Who knows? All right, that's a good idea. Okay, my number 3 I thought was the PDFs for the journals and the annuals. I thought that's a great gift for anyone that hasn't got that. Even if you've got the journals and the annuals, having the PDFs that Mighty Man Publishing are putting out is really handy. And I think we've had it. I know that people are slowly starting to scan in all the scenarios. I've got 6 massive folders of scenarios. The idea of having them all on PDF is actually quite nice. It's a lot of work, though, isn't it? It's a lot of work to do that.
Yes, yeah. It's very, very easy to buy. I mean, we sort of reviewed it, didn't we? We bought the annuals.
Yes.
And it's so much there, and it was brilliant. Sort of like looking through it and reading some of the articles and looking at the old scenarios.
That's right. And it's interesting because like my kids now tend to not go for books if they can help it. You know, it's almost like a book is a stranger. You know, obviously at school they do a lot of stuff with books, but it's pushing all more to online stuff. And if you don't have the book, don't bother with the book if you don't need to.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because coming back to chess, like sort of 15 years after kind of leaving it alone for a long time, everything now has gone onto YouTube, and all of the opening stuff is on YouTube, and the grandmasters are all streaming on YouTube and Twitch and things. So books are becoming less and less.
Presumably, this sort of visual culture with YouTube and things like that will eventually go out of fashion, and parents will be going, do you know what? I'm trying to get him to like watch YouTube a bit before he goes to bed. He's just not interested.
He's got his holograms,
Yeah.
Just there's a few videos of that where you're telling these kids just spend more screen time because there's so much on their virtual reality. And it's going to be. There will be a period where, but I don't know. Anyway,
my number two. Also, I don't know. I suppose you could rig this up, but I really want a button that I can press 24/7 that directly alerts Klaus that I have a rules query. Okay. And he can be going, oh, what is it, Martin? Oh, it's 2 a.m. here, whatever, and I can say, oh yeah, what were the 2 numbers that activate snipers again? I always forget. Something like that would just be absolutely spectacular, wouldn't it?
To be fair, he does do a service like that.
He does do a service very close to as good as that.
It's not far off, is it?
I don't think I've ever seen anyone put a question on Game Squad that he didn't answer immediately. I mean, he does for that tweet.
What kind of a question would you have to answer where Klaus goes, I can't answer that. I don't know.
No idea. I got no idea.
I'd be really worried.
I have seen him say, it'd have to be a Perry says.
Right.
I've seen him say that. But possibly it was even him that then sort of like framed the question. But I think it takes someone of his kind of encyclopedic knowledge and intelligence to recognise that it's not clear in the rules kind of thing, and to be kind of confident about that. Yeah. I mean, the man's amazing.
He is, isn't he? He is.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. Very, very impressive.
I don't know that he'll agree to the 24/7 button, but if you're listening, Klaus, and you think that sounds like something you want to be involved in,
you can make it happen, Martin. You can make it happen. You'll have to ask him to design the button for you as well, because you're not doing all that. Right, my number 2.
Yeah.
I got this book, and it's actually 2 books. The Fortress Budapest. It's backwards, isn't it?
It's one book, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not one book.
Oh, it is 2 books. It's actually 2 books.
And guess what?
Amazing.
One is more interesting than the other because one is full of proper. It's a proper textbook.
Yeah.
It's a proper. I mean,
that's got words and everything, hasn't it?
I mean, look at that. And look, I've got through it. I'm getting through it. But the second one, which is your style, Martin. It's a picture book. It's got all the pictures. But there's genuinely there is.
I prefer like those sort of little cartoony pictures that they do. Yeah.
500 pages of just pictures.
Wow.
This book is incredible. So if you have any interest in Festung Budapest, the campaign game. Kamen Nevenkins, The Siege of the Hungarian Capital, Fortress Budapest, is an incredible book. It's a bit of a slog to read, I'll be honest with you, but it is very, very, very good. And I genuinely recommend. I mean, it's expensive, so it's definitely a kind of like a treat if you're going to buy it. But it is quite the book, and if you have any interest at all, you start reading this, and the first thing you want to do is play Festung Budapest. I mean, it's just you want to be, because it gives you context, and it's there's some ridiculous thing at the start of this book tells you that I think it was bombed. Do you know this? I think it was bombed by 5 different nations, or maybe 7 different nations bombed Budapest.
Wow!
In the Second World War. I mean, it's just South Africa. South Africa bombed it. I mean,
that does feel odd. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite harsh, So
sounds like a fascinating book. Yeah. And I love reading books about military history. So
afterwards, you're welcome to read this as well. So
I do have a book on Budapest, the Battle of Budapest, or the Siege of Budapest, which I think you may have given me.
Oh, well,
it's,
who knows?
Fat, but thinner than that one.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right, your number one, Martin.
My number one, right? Okay, so this has been done. Okay, sometimes you see people showing these like sort of like a proper gaming table that they've built themselves. They've designed and built themselves. One specially for ASL, and this would have like little drawers to keep your maps in and your counters, and it would have like little trays to put the prep fire counters in, and all those sorts of things. You're going to have the map. You could cover it, so you could kind of put it away safe, and it would be safe there. And you could use the table above for something else. I think we have drink holders. I can imagine all sorts of things. So a beautifully carved, beautifully made, beautiful carpentry ASL gaming desk.
Our top five next week will be made ASL things that have been made by people. Okay,
that's a very good idea.
Because
we can find the pictures.
We'll find the pictures for it. Jack Daniels is the guy that makes incredible ASL furniture, and he is. Yeah. Like how you and I can't whittle a lollipop stick.
Yeah.
We can't do anything, and he can create masterpiece tables and cabinets and all sorts.
Yeah.
We need to have more friends like that, Martin.
We need to have a very, very good friend in Jack Daniels. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Excellent. I would love a table like that. There's you can get big gaming tables. I know there's but an ASL specific one where you can. And Martin Vickers is very handy as well with making those kind of table overlays, isn't he? He does.
Right. No, we are sort of friendly with. Oh no, yeah, he makes the. Yeah, that's right, a little overlay thing. Yeah. I think those very nice, very impressive, but absolutely nothing on the scale of what I have in my imagination.
Does yours have a Klaus holder as well, where Klaus sits?
But it has a place for the button.
Not actually just Klaus to sit. You're just gonna have the button. Yeah, okay.
Right. Oh, well, do you mean with just actually a little place where Klaus sits?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Klaus will be up for that, I'm sure. All right, my number one, and this is a genuine like what I want. I kind of thought, what did I want for Christmas from MMP? It's the Chapter H pocket rulebook. I love Chapter H. It's fantastic, but it does live in a folder of its own, and it kind of sits outside. I don't have it to hand. I want Chapter H in the same pocket rulebook style. I know it's on the way. I think they're doing it. It can't come soon enough for me. So I'm looking forward to that, and that's. That'll be an exciting day in my and I'm sure we may even give one away as a patron as well if we can pick them up relatively cheaply. We'll try and do that. So I think that's I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's made a huge difference. I mean, I don't think I look in my ring folder rulebook anymore.
Right.
I think pretty much automatically always got the proper rulebook to hand, the new style. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, well, guys, let us know if you've got any particular ASL wants, desires, wish lists. Have you, probably by the time you watch this, or maybe Christmas will have been and gone. So did you get any Christmas presents that are ASL? I'm always excited to hear what people picked up. I don't know if you get this as well, Martin. I get told I'm hard to buy for. I mean, there's 10 things we've just given people. It's got to be nice and easy. All right. Okay. Okay, so now it's time for the look over the TuomoFest number 2. It's Tom Repetti against Tuomo Lukkari. Martin, what are they playing? And do you want to give us a quick overview of the scenario?
Absolutely. So they're playing Salutia General, which is Friendly Fire 56 from Pack 7. And it's Germans against the Russians, Germans attacking Russians in September 1942. It looks like a really interesting situation. It's quite a broad board. Germans have got to capture some woods, which are quite deep in the Russian position. I think they've got like a bit of a choice of directions, sort of axes of attack. They can go down the middle, they can go down one or both of the flanks or whatever. And really, I think this looks like a very interesting game from the point of view of the tanks. The Germans have 7 Panzer IIIs, all different types. So they've got sort of 50 millimeter guns, 50L guns. And they are fighting against the Russian 6 Stuarts. The Stuarts are quite a kind of a new thing, I think, at that point in the war, and it's very, very interesting because looking over sort of past games, the Russians do seem to have a bit of an advantage here. We've got it 25-12 on Raw, and it's 5-0 on the archive in favour of the Russians. Some of the comments are German armour left in a pile of smoking metal. That's the kind of that's the kind of end of game comment. Another game, 1 Stuart knocked out 4 Panzers, infantry to not able to sort of overcome that problem.
Right.
But looking at the actual penetration numbers, actually the Stuart doesn't seem to have a massive advantage. Stuart can definitely penetrate the armour of the Panzer IIIs.
Yeah.
But equally, 50 and the 50L can penetrate the armour of the Stuart. So it's going to be an interesting sort of tank battle, I think.
And what's the victory conditions?
So the victory conditions are that a group of the Germans have to win at the end if they control all of the woods hexes that are at the back of the.
We've got that on marks.
Yeah.
Right. So this does look. It looks tough. It does look tough on the Germans. I think if we look at this, you've got obviously a very, very wide, broad front to defend as the Russians. But you've got there's certainly some open ground that the Germans have to cross. And I mean the key thing as well for me is they don't have a huge amount of time. It's 6.5 turns. To make you're getting across what sort of 6 or so tanks you've got to get through.
And Tom's the attacking German, so it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes about trying to achieve this.
And it's interesting because there's not many scenarios where you see that you've got to have woods as a defence.
Very unusual.
I can't think of many where it's the woods that you've got to hold.
And yet, very often when I read accounts of battles, very often the capture of a wood is exactly what they set out to do at the beginning of the operation.
Interesting. Okay, all right. So let's hear from Tuomo first, and then we'll hear from Tom. We'll give a little overview of what we think at the start, and then we'll play through to the middle of the game. Okay, so here comes Tuomo's view of his defence.
Alright, fellow ASL players, it's Tuomo Lukkari here, and as you can already guess, this means that the Tuomos are back. So there will be another scenario played by me and the other Tuomo, Tom Repetti. Today we are playing a Best of Friends 16, saluting a general, and I will be taking the defending Russians. In this scenario, there is quite a lot to unpack, so basically I won't even try to do a comprehensive analysis at the get-go. I will point out now the most interesting things from my view here, and a couple of things from my setup, and otherwise we will try to make some kind of a commentary and also hopefully analysis by our hosts as the game unfolds. So this scenario takes place in September of 1942, and this era, 1942, 1943, is in many ways the favorite era for me when ASL combat arms or tank battles go. And in this era, the tanks normally used in scenario are the tin cans that dominate the early war scenarios. Those are mostly gone. So the concepts that didn't work have been discarded, and you have a normally very well-rounded vehicles, but it's not yet the late war stuff where you encounter Joseph Stalins and Tigers and Panthers and Fireflies, where in many occasions a hit equals to a kill, so there is still some tension to it. I've made a defensive setup, and the defensive setup has a few features. So these guys here form a picket line, and they are just designed to limit the German setup so that Tom has to set as far back as possible. And I will try to buy some time by forcing him to move forward as much as possible. This is a gamble because I'm pretty spread out and it might backfire. So it might be that we end up having the shortest illumination round webcast web video yet in the web. But on the other hand, it's good to try out different things, and then next time around, if I ever play this again, I will know better. Then I have created a couple of stacks here, which are concealed, and which have the same amount of counters. And the point here is, of course, to make Tom guess what is the heavy weapon and which heavy weapons are where. And also because I expect Tom to pick up a attack route along one of the boards or two of the boards, I will also use the leaders to look at the heavy equipment in the new position if need to be, because I can't really pick any single route Tom will use in this scenario, so I could see that each of these three boards can be used as a springboard to attack towards the victory area back here. This scenario is also a good lesson on one thing I want to stress out, is that you always should check out this chapter H notes for the weapons you are using, tanks or ordnance. And in this scenario, there are a couple of noteworthy things. If we first start to look at the, whoops, that was the wrong way around. Start to look at the mortar I have here, which starts disassembled. You actually, by checking the chapter H, you actually will realize that this thing actually can be fired, first assembled and fired then in the same fire phase. And also the other way around, it can be fired and then disassembled in one fire phase. So basically, if Tom has a strong force somewhere here to start with, I can actually put it together and take one shot already to either to hit something or at least gain an acquisition, and then I have a 3 rate of fire and an acquisition already in place for my own prep fire. The other thing that is extremely important here are the general lead tanks, and even though Tom has 8 tanks and I have 6, because of these lead tanks have 2 guns, 75mm and 37mm gun, it means that I actually have 9 cubes in my tank, so I actually have more guns than Tom has. And the 75mm gun is the one which can penetrate anything Tom can throw at me. And the 37LL is marginal against those Panzer IIIs where you have 6 armor in frontal facing. But Tom only has 3 of them, and rest 5 of the tanks have at least one one aspect, the turret aspect or the whole frontal armor at 4, which means that these 37 LLs are actually quite potent against those tanks. And that means also that you need to read carefully who can keep rate of fire, how the acquisition works on these tanks, so to be able to extract everything out of it, and also vice versa, be sure to check out the German tanks and the APCR numbers they are carrying. That's also a big threat, especially for the lead tanks. So that's something that I mean is normally also, and the German APCR numbers from 1942 are quite nice. As I said, there would be a lot of other things you could say about this starting point, but I will, because I don't know what Tom is going to do, that will kind of probably lead up to more fruitful discussion during the scenario. And also, in the interest of time, I have to leave it here. We will now start the game, and I really hope that we will manage to make as entertaining and good game that we did last time around, because these things are damn fun to make. So let's see how it goes, and we will now start our game. Thank you.
Okay, so let's hear now quickly from Tom as to his attack, and then we will catch up with our thoughts.
All right, Tuomo and Tuomo are back with Best of Friends 16, Saluting a General. This time Mr. Lukkari is the defending Russians and I am the attacking Germans. He sets up like you see the Russians having done there, and I can't set up within 6 hexes of any of his units. So basically by putting those red units up front there, he's pushed me off to the left-hand side where you see my blue setup area. And the point of this scenario is to get to control the area to the right there in red, the victory area, that 6 hex wood mass. So what is going on? I really don't like the idea of attacking down board 5. It just seems like that's too far to go and too easy to block, and I suspect that if you threw out a heavy machine gun fire lane, as you see with that red arrow, then that's just going to be too much for me to handle. So I don't think it's a good idea to attack there. Similarly, going down board 42, it's too easily channelized and confined. So I'm just going to be boring here and take my turn 1 and go straight on to the front, and we'll see what happens.
So Martin, we can talk a little bit about how people prepare for scenarios. So, typically, what do you do to prepare for a scenario, and what do you think is the optimum way to prepare as well?
Okay, all right. Well, so I suppose the first thing is just getting your head round, where everybody's coming in and where, what the victory conditions are, and start to look at sort of your pulling out counters and things like that. And then a game like this, you need to have a really good understanding of the relative strengths of the tanks, I think. So I'd start looking at penetration numbers and looking at armor, and do you need side shots and rear shots, or have you got APCR, have you got smoke and things like that. So I think I'd start trying to understand that. So you need to know, I think, when your opponent moves the tank, whether you need to be trying to run away or whether you need to be kind of like trying to fight them. Do you see what I mean?
Yep, yeah.
So I think I want to look at those sorts of things.
Yep. And it's interesting because, so do you read like AARs of the scenario that you've played? Or about
sometimes I do. So yeah. I mean, I suppose it's really interesting to see how other people have played it and see how their games went. So yeah, I certainly sometimes do that as a part of my preparation.
And what about, for example, a series replay as well? Would you go to the extent of looking through a series replay and playing through it?
Not in preparation for a game, I don't think. I mean, I possibly might read some of the headlines and I might read it through, but there's no way I'd set it out before I played and play it through for the purposes of understanding the scenario better for that game. Potentially, I'd go through a series replay just simply for the interest and the enjoyment, but not as a part of preparing for a game. I think.
Yeah, that's true. So looking at this one, it's interesting that Tom is nervous about going around the top because of that fire lane. I personally would not have been as scared of the fire lane as as maybe Tom is right to be, but not suggesting Tom's wrong to. I think the value of getting something around and around the back of the Russians is huge, because it just interferes with the route path so much when those Russians start to break. Obviously, it's a little bit too early for the Germans to have riders. Interestingly, the Russians can have riders. Maybe this is the battle where the Germans learned that riders is technically possible. But they obviously there's no riders going to be in this scenario. But that would have made a big difference. And certainly if riders were available, I would have had no hesitation to put in 3 tanks up and around the top of that board, through the path of that woods.
I mean, is it? It's not definitely a heavy machine gun, is it? That's the assumption. I mean, it's a very, very good line of sight.
That's right.
It's just filing for it.
Yeah, and Tuomo was smart to kind of say, well, there's 3 or 4 options that you could use that basically are potential machine guns, in this instance. And so you might think about these as being potentials, and it makes sense. I think Tom's right to think that the one that he's suspicious of is the heavy machine gun.
My question is, though, that if that is a heavy machine gun and it lays a successful fire lane, the infantry can't go through it, can they? You have to find some way of neutralising that with the tanks in order to be able to run the infantry in that direction. I mean, you could take them through the woods that are more near the centre of board 5, I suppose. You could take the infantry out.
The heavy machine gun's got a range of 12 for the Russians here. It's not a 50 cal, is it?
I thought it was 16, isn't it?
Is it 16 for the Russian one? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay, so it's just an ordinary Russian heavy machine gun, isn't it? So I can quickly look.
So yeah, because that I suppose does make a difference. But like we've seen in the past, and I've used this in a kind of sleazy thing, but driving up and down.
You're right. It's only 12.
It's only 12.
It's not nearly so bad.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you could even go around that Russian machine gun without even.
Certainly around the fire lane, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, if the Russian machine gun is going to take a 2-down-2 shot at long range, I suppose at some point, if you're going to break back there, you're going to have time to come back again. So yeah, I wouldn't be so nervous about that. And like I said, a fire lane, drive that tank up and down it, and that will soon malfunction, or sort your crew out one way or the other. But it's certainly a way to crack open what could be a tougher nut. And I think the thing you could obviously sit off and take shots at it, but the Russians are just going to skulk, or they're going to just slowly pull back through the woods, and it's going to be hard to get there. Okay, so we'll start to play through the scenario now. Russians, obviously the Russians seem to be the favoured side. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so the Germans are off. And we can see a little bit of action already from Tuomo. A little bit of first fire in there. Okay. Brakes.
Yep.
A couple of guys, and Tom gets a sniper straight away, and manages to break. What happened there? Oh, he breaks the. And that's interesting because we had this conversation about whether you unconceal other broken unit out of line of sight by a sniper. We had that conversation a couple of days ago, I think, you and I.
That's right. Yeah.
And the answer is you do unconceal it.
I think a broken unit it can't be concealed. Yeah,
can't be concealed.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some action down at the bottom as well.
Yep.
Some good shooting from Tuomo, and does final fire here. So now, Martin, does Tuomo have any concealment counters on this scenario?
He has no concealment counters.
All right, so everything is real.
Everything's real. Yeah.
So we've got a snake eyes here on the morale check, and we've got a berserk squad Oh, it's a heroic leader coming in here. But obviously not that useful with a broken squad.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some more final firing coming on. Okay, so let's just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so here come the Russian tanks.
Yep. German tanks got turn 2.
Yeah, so the Germans have made decent progress here, haven't they?
I think so. Yeah, very, very good progress in terms of.
But so here's one of the problems now.
Yeah.
And you can always tell this is going to be grim when the defender starts attacking.
Yeah.
So they've started attacking down on the bottom board on 42H.
Yeah.
H3. This is always kind of grim. He's picking up wall advantage with the Germans behind him already. Oh, jeez. That's and this is kind of the downside of quite a spread out attack, isn't it?
Yes.
There's no cover for those.
It's quite a spread out defence. You know, it can work the other way.
Right, but when you see a spread out defence, generally if you can have a Schwerpunkt, like a very quick pointed attack in one area,
which I suppose is what we have in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
The Russians running back from the places that weren't attacked.
Right.
And this is very Tuomo. We've seen this before. This very neat defence.
Yes. Yeah. Reminds me of Dwayne's defence as well, where you
absolutely
keep everything in line.
Yeah.
And we've got a close combat going on, presumably with
the hero, I suspect.
Yeah. What's happened there? I've got no counter there. Oh, he's come back.
Yeah, that hero was killed.
Right.
And now it's interesting having this couple of squads on that side now, just to kind of perhaps irritate the Germans.
Yeah.
All the tanks coming on.
Yeah. And this seems like the right thing to do, to bring the tanks against the heavy and stuff, if you think that's where the heavy is.
Yeah.
So the tanks now getting back involved, and this is perhaps the downside of where you get a bit brave with the Russians and you push forward a bit. You leave yourself a little bit cut off.
Absolutely.
From the defence. Let me see now. This. Okay, here's the first tank battle here.
Yes. His crew exposed and everything.
Now, it's worth double checking that these tanks, these are okay. I always, with the T-34s, I always forget. Is it T-34? You can't be crew exposed and fire at the same time with the thick. It's got the thick square around it. There's no crew exposed.
Yeah. Well, these are American tanks.
Yes, these are okay.
Yeah.
So this is looking stronger for the Germans, and it almost.
I'd say they look like they're doing very well.
Yeah.
A lot of strength in the centre. I mean, it feels like a chess match really, with the strong control of the centre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we are where we're on. So we're coming up to it's German turn 2.
Yeah.
Now. And these are the scenarios where you almost get like two scenarios in one, don't you? Where you have like a separate battle going on.
Yeah.
Seeing down at the bottom here on board 42.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of tanks up against. It's interesting that they've encircled the squad at the bottom there, so that's quite good. And we've seen before, haven't we, like good players work on that encirclement, don't they? It's like kind of a key tool in your toolkit if you can work encirclement. Often because you're in the right position. If you're in front and behind the enemy, that's generally the right place to be.
It forces them to surrender as well, don't they, if you get adjacent?
That's right, yeah. And that's one of the downsides of declaring no quarter as well, is that if you can, get them encircled and then being adjacent, you'll get that instant surrender.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the tanks there, the Russian tanks keeping concealment there. There's no line of sight there to anything.
And they're not seeking the battle, are they? Particularly the Russians.
Yeah, just let them come on. Yeah, let them
Yeah.
walk on. So just down the bottom there, by the way. So that there's a leader and a squad that have got away from the tanks and the everything there. It's quite useful to to recover anything you can. Oh, we've got a malfunctioned armament there. But at this point, you've got what 10 hexes to go, and 4 or 5 turns to get there. Germans got to feel quite good about this. The problem is, you've got that Russian line of armour.
That's right.
Sitting in front of the
infantry can't move through it. It's got to be. It's got to be dealt with, doesn't it?
And the tanks are going to have to. They're going to have to come on almost sort of front on. This is the kind of the downside with not going around the back.
That's true. Some of the Panzer IIIs do have 6 armour factors on the front.
Right.
But but by the time they're quite close range, the Stuarts can certainly handle them.
And look at this. So now Tom has got around the back with started to, and you can see the kind of the benefit straight away there. You can get that encircling shot in the woods where you're generally not going to be able to do it. He's managed to malfunction his bow machine gun as well on one of those. But at the same time, we can see that there's actually plenty here to kind of go at for if you can get them around both sides. And this is what Tom's doing well around the bottom of the map as well now. You've got that mortar which looks like it's in a bit of a sticky position. I guess the problem with the sack on the board 42 is there's no infantry to back that up.
No.
And tanks on their own are always gonna struggle a little bit more. So we have snipers hit a squad back here. What number sniper do you start to worry about? Is it like a sniper of 4 or a sniper of 5?
Yeah, I think so. I think a 4. I mean, a 5 is deadly, isn't it? But 3 you can sort of not over. I don't think too much about.
Right.
But your average game, you're going to activate a 3 if you more than once.
Yeah.
Fighting
withdrawal's got like a huge number, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it 6? Which is the highest possible. Yeah.
Okay, right. So we are at the end of German turn. Russia. So is that the end of
German turn 3? So it's the end of German turn 3, and Tom and Tomo. So Tom's
going to have some comments here. So let's now listen to Tom's comments, and then we'll kind of chime in as well.
All right, so here we are after German turn 3, kind of taking a little break before the big push next turn. I've kind of flowed over to either side because I just did not see the point of pushing on turn 2 against this massed firepower. This is like a May Day parade in Russia or something. So my armor didn't want to try forcing that. And in fact, the infantry just wound up gaining concealment and assault moving to the front of this woods mass, where you'll note there is all kinds of acquisition on them. So, and in fact, I'm worried about his mortar hurting me as I try to come across. But, I just didn't see the point of not really being in a good position and trying to force something on turn 2. At least on turn 3, I've got a little bit going on the flanks here. And if everything stays pretty much the way it is now, that's how I'll probably start off next turn, seeing what I can make happen from these flankers. This guy on board 5 might come down and see if he can smoke somebody else out or get a bounding fire shot against one of those tanks, or maybe just stay in their hex and keep them from firing out. There's going to be a whole lot of fancy armor tricks that I'm going to try to pull. For his part, I don't know what Tuomo's going to do. I think it's kind of a no-brainer to take one of these Stuarts and bring it down to here, hull down, and threaten these guys. He's got the movement points to do that. And if he wants, sure, probably would be a good idea to try to cover this Woods Road exit. But if he's doing that, then he's losing 2 out of his 6 tanks. and I've still got 8 tanks that can reposition easily. So that's the value of the flank attack. We'll see whether anything good happens with it. The interesting thing to me, though, is what Tuomo does on his Russian turn 3 that's coming up. He's got an opportunity to be calm and just fall back in good order and cover everything nicely like he already has, in addition to doing these flank cover moves. But you know how sometimes you think you might want to make something fancy happen and do things that you wind up regretting later. And I'm wondering if what he's going to do. I haven't played him enough to know whether he's kind of given to those flights of fancy or trying to gain style points or make things happen before the other guy makes them happen. I don't know. If I were him, I would just, fall back into a good position, because this is a really strong defense. But maybe in trying to make something good happen before the German attack, he'll wind up weakening himself. So we shall see what the Finnish disposition is. I imagine next turn is going to feature a whole lot of burning wrecks and broken infantry, so we'll see.
Okay, so good comments from Tom. Would you think about taking one of those tanks around the bottom of the board as the Russians, Martin?
It wouldn't occur to me.
No.
But because I'm just thinking how powerful those tanks look all together.
Yeah.
And how difficult it is to perhaps approach that when you potentially, every time you approach it, you potentially got, 4 or 5 tanks firing at them. But Tom's point is quite a sensible one. He's got 8 tanks, hasn't he? And if for the cost of one, for one of the Stuarts, he can slow down or hold up 2 German tanks. I guess that seems to make sense. It wouldn't have occurred to me.
What about with the Germans bringing one tank around the bottom of that lake? Around the right-hand side of the lake, and then back and hit the...
I think that makes total sense if Tuomo doesn't move one of the Stuarts to make that more difficult. Yeah.
Or even...
sorry.
I was going to say, or even coming up through the little path in the woods, just below those tanks, just to try and hit them from 2 sides at once.
That'd be great. I think the whole thing about coming up behind this line is important. But of course, it all depends on what Tuomo does in his turn 3.
Yeah. Okay. So Russian turn 3. So we're off and away. And let's see. That mortar's in a great spot, by the way. I hadn't appreciated how good that spot is to catch that. They're in a nice place. They can pull back into the building if they need to, just for defense. But it's a nice spot. Okay. So here's the Russian tanks maneuvering around. I'll zoom in a little bit. I hope we can see most of the action here. So here comes those tanks, and they've got a lot of guns on them, and they've got they've got a lot of stuff, haven't they?
Yeah. They're very good at handling the infantry, aren't they? Tom's got to take them on with the tanks first, really.
So we've got some infantry coming back. It's hard to see. So there's one Russian tank pulling back a little bit. It's hard to see a weakness in the Russian defence here, isn't it? Though.
Yeah. I think it's very skillful.
Yeah, and this is kind of almost the if you can sum up ASL as a game, it is manoeuvre, isn't it? That's the key thing. It's manoeuvre, not
brute force.
That's right. And knowing when to pull back seems to be like the hardest thing. So let's have a look. It's
looks like the mortar's been neutralised.
They've done that, and that's great. But it's probably done its job in terms of just holding up a little bit. Those guys. So we've got some action down the bottom there with these tanks coming round. Oh yeah, coming round the back. Okay.
Doing exactly what you predicted.
And through the path. Okay, all right.
And this is all about Tom, because it's Tom's turn now. Tom's turn 4, isn't it? It's all about getting these tanks in position for next turn, isn't it?
Yes.
And one of my problems, one of my many, is that I tend to be impatient.
Yes.
And push too hard. And this is like just timing this nicely. He's getting into position to push next time.
Yeah, so the tricky thing here, though, is that
Yeah.
it's infantry that's going to win this battle, isn't it? It's not going to be the tanks.
Yeah.
And it's almost at that point where you're running out of time with that infantry to get across that open ground.
Yeah.
It looks like a horrendous thing to try and take.
But they're never going to take, the infantry's never going to take that wood on their own. The tanks have got to neutralise the Stuarts, I think. The Panzer IIIs have got to neutralise the Stuarts first.
So, yeah, we've got... Oh, okay, so we've got some smoke.
There's just a smoke there.
Yeah. Another one's taken out.
The lucky crew there.
Yeah. You tell them that.
His crew exposed.
Okay, well, Tomo's lost his. He's lost both guns on that one.
Yeah.
In a way, if you're going to lose 2, would you rather have them on 1 tank or spread across 2?
Don't know. A strong preference for not losing my guns.
Right, yeah. I just don't fire them. You're okay.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So we've got the crew, the infantry now kind of in a reasonable position here. We're looking coming up to turn 4.
Yeah.
Turn 4 with Russians here.
Still quite a bit of Russian infantry around, isn't there?
That's right. That's the trouble. Yeah. And you've got to take, is it all 6 hexes? Is it?
I believe so. Yeah. That's right. If they control all wood hexes on or adjacent
does look tough,
to the path. So it's not. Yes, it is for all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Russians are on the attack again. Look at this. That's a brave manoeuvre.
Yeah.
Russian tank here.
He's got himself some smoke to protect himself.
Smoke and spins. Oh, nice.
Did he get a hit?
Yeah, he takes him out. That's nice from the German there. That's like a showboating manoeuvre there. He managed to disable his power machine gun at the same time.
So we got a recalled Russian tank. Yeah. The Russians are beginning to go down, aren't they? They are beginning to. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're so there's still a fair amount of
we got Tuomo. It's beginning to turn 5.
Yeah, so let's hear from Tuomo now, and see how he thinks we're getting on.
Right, fellow ASL players, Tuomo Lukkari here again. So we are starting at the mid-turn game commentary in the beginning of 5th turn. So this actually is 2/3 into the game commentary. So because we only have 2.5 turns left, but I still might to share a few views how the game has developed. So the situation is more or less according to my game plan. I have managed to get myself organized around this area. I have all of my remaining tanks there, most of my infantry, and this means that I have a good position to go into the end game in the terms that at least all my remaining assets are still in place. There have been a few mishaps here. I have managed to malfunction and then recall on the repair rolls one of my lead tanks, which is not a good thing. Basically losing one of the leads for which are the most powerful counters in the whole scenario for more or less nothing. And then also up here I tried to challenge one of the Tom's Panzer IIIs, which was alone in the forest, and I thought I would kind of manage to swerve past him and kill that tank and get one of my Stuarts into this position to interdict Tom's attack on the board 5 side, but as you can already see, I missed my bounding fire attack, and Tom got some raid and APCR, and then the rest of the story is shown as a destroyed Stuart tank. In my pre-game commentary, I commented that my picket line was a gamble, and I think it actually has worked in a sense that, especially on the what has happened in the board 42 area around these hexes here, I actually managed to disturb Tom's movements, and I am in position to make his life difficult. So we have a squad and a leader here, which I hope to interdict his 42 flank come to the end game. I have managed to. I took too many risks with my mortar, so my mortar is out of the game effectively. I didn't get much out of the mortar. I should have pulled it back earlier, and I also have managed to malfunction my heavy machine gun. So those assets are out of the game, but I mean, still, I think that there is a fighting chance here. And given that Tom has lost one of the 50L Panzer IIIs, and one of the 50L Panzer IIIs has a malfunctioned main armament, I actually still think that I'm in a reasonably good shape here. So, but the next session will show. We will play the last couple of turns, and then let's see how it turned out to be. Thank you.
So Martin, you caught the fact that they were talking about the APCR, but only the Panzer IIIJs have got Panzer III APCR.
By special rules, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but
they may have
probable that ordinary anti-tank would have got the kill anyway.
Right. Exactly.
In this situation,
Tuomo at this point thinks it's still in the balance. I mean, it looks really difficult at this point for the Germans.
Yeah.
They're. I mean, although the mortar's down for the Russians and the heavy machine gun is out. I mean, if we look at the attack that the Germans have got left,
but they've got 3 turns still. So if they keep taking tanks down at this rate, then potentially.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 tanks sitting around that, like bees around a honeypot, aren't they? Really, those
That's
tanks.
true. And I think one of the problems is that most of the Germans there's a fair bit of broken German infantry out there, isn't there? The Germans are actually looking a little bit thin at the spearhead with infantry.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But it's it's interesting that the tricky thing really is you've got that tank right at the top, the Russian tank right at the top, which is kind of holding the Germans and keeping them honest in a way from coming around the top there, which is quite nicely placed. And it's just the Germans are going to struggle to get around anywhere of this, aren't they? Because there's just no nice avenues of approach, and you've kind of my money's on the Russians right now.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, all right. So let's see how we get on. So German turn 5. Yeah, German turn 5. So round comes the first customer of the Russian tanks, and he gets away with it. And it's taking up a lot of fire. It becomes immobile there. Oh, okay. This has the feelings of a bit of a desperate push from the Germans now. The kind of the slower. He's taking a tank out there. The slower, more methodical attack has given way to a bit of a rush, and sometimes that can absolutely break open a position, can't it? And you've got intensified shots there from the Russians.
It does force the defender to commit their firepower, don't they, to those sorts of moves.
KIA there from one of the squads.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones where now, in a real game, there's the counter density is getting quite big here, quite high.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't even see how you're going to get one squad into that woods. It just looks difficult.
Agreed. You have to cross that open ground at some point if they're going to win.
Yeah.
And they got 6 hexes to take control of, and there's Russians getting into the building, into the woods. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. It's carnage, though, isn't it?
It is.
It's a busy end to the game.
Yes.
End game.
Yeah. Now the Russians can get into the back of that woods.
Yeah.
They're going to potentially even gain concealment at the back there.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? You've got to literally dig them all out with infantry. It's
right. I mean,
could take time.
Yeah, you could send a tank around the back.
Absolutely.
We've got another Tuomo's broken another gun there.
Certainly, the Stuarts are starting to look very thin on the ground.
Yes.
And mind you, so are the Panzers.
So we've got some routing going on at the back there.
Yeah.
More Russians kind of pulling into the woods. Zoom back out again.
There's hardly any tanks left now.
So she's turned 6 for the Germans.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've really got to be getting into the front of that woods, haven't you, for the last turn? I mean,
it's the whole
break there. Yeah.
But you've got no choice but just to push, have you, and accept the shots back.
Yeah, this feels like a desperate charge against the tanks, and
he's still got a half squad at the top. Is that going to come down?
And that's it. I think at this point, Tom
Tom's conceded. Yeah,
I can't see how. Yeah, I this is one of those games where when you've finished it, there's just relief. The pain is over. I mean, I feel for Tom there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think clearly the frontal attack doesn't work on this.
Yeah.
I can't see. With Tomo's defence,
it's a long way to go, isn't it? And Tom even seems to be making pretty good progress, but it's a long way to go against stiff defence. Yeah,
that's right. Let's see what they say, and then let's get back there.
And that's a wrap as the German attack falls apart. I tried to hit him on the last turn with an armored blitz from all sides, but his 4 tanks that he had left formed a nice mutually supporting box, and I really couldn't chip away at that. And my infantry really couldn't force them to run away either. So kudos to Tuomo for realizing the strength of that defense and not spreading out more. I think it would have been easier for me to hit him from the flanks if he had done that. But he packed it in, and I really couldn't hit him from angles that I needed to. So nice job on his part.
And here is Tuomo Lukkari once again commenting on from the Russians' perspective on the end of the scenario. So as you can see, there has been a couple of intensive movement phases since we last spoke, and the German has conceded. The thing is that as you can, all the beautiful Panzer IIIs have been destroyed. In the end of the day, I managed to, or Tom didn't have a concentration of armor, which led into a situation that his tanks came onto me piece by piece, and it meant that I could pick them out at once in ones or twos, and also the fact that he didn't have the 50 L punchers remaining remaining for the end game was also a bad thing, because if that meant that he had to try to challenge my remaining general lead tanks, or the from sides and back with the 50mm guns, and I could actually pick them out. There was a there was a charge at the second last movement phase by the German to get the infantry around the victory area, and this is now when that charge has ended. So basically, I have shot everything Tom has also on the infantry side to pieces, and there is no chance that he can get, because I have multiple multi-man counters around the victory area, and Tom basically can't get onto it. This is a very interesting scenario, as I said. I actually thinking myself that I would love to try my luck here as the German, and to see what kind of an approach with German might work out. Probably not coming through the friendly fire A or board 85 route directly, but to do some kind of a flanking move with either board 5 or board 42, but would need to think about it. But I mean, it's not a bad scenario, and it has, as I said earlier in my pre-game commentary, it has interesting tank setup. I think that Tom was a bit unlucky in the end to lose one of the Panzer 50Ls, and I also that every time he showed to the gun malfunction, and then every time he showed me a Panzer 3 with a 50L gun in the end game, I just basically got a hit and kill from the get-go. So that probably is not something that the German can afford here. Nevertheless, we had a lot of fun. This was a good game, and now the International Tuomo Championship Series is tied at 1-1. We will see if there are further installments, but at least for now, we also hope that we have managed now to play a game and get some thoughts and commentary for you guys to get more enjoyment and insights to ASL system as a whole. So over and out for me, and let's see what our esteemed hosts have to say on this game. Thank you.
Okay, so that's good comments there from both players. It's difficult, and I think this is just one of those scenarios where it just looks tough from the start, and what can you do? What can you do?
Yeah.
But well played, guys. Both excellent. We've got to assume it's 2-0 to the Europeans there. So Tuomo.
Oh, absolutely.
Tuomo, scoring for the Europeans. So that's always good. We still have the EU in our heart, despite what. Some of the British think.
Are we even Europeans now?
We're going to hold on to it for as long as we can. I'm a
rejoiner, so
a rejoiner. Yeah, that's. I'd be up for that. I'd take the Euro if we could. All right.
Too.
Yeah. Okay. So good game, guys. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that for us, and we really appreciate it. Maybe there'll be another one, and if you guys let them know in the comments if you enjoyed that, then we might be able to persuade them to do another one for us, and we can have a look. Okay, so let's do a Patreon giveaway, Martin. So 1 to 48 on random.org. We're gonna do 2 of these. So give me a number 1 to 48 for 4 packs of minstrels. The lady in the post office thinks I'm crazy, but
actually 23 times more expensive to post them to America than to actually buy the minstrels, I believe.
Let's hope we get some UK Patreon winners here.
Okay, so I've got minimum 1, maximum 48, and the number generated is 46.
46. Okay, we have birthday boy Tuomo Lukkari. Happy
birthday! Excellent.
So you've got some, and let's do one more, please, Martin. Because
the second number is 47. What's the chance of that?
Okay, so
it doesn't sound very random, does it? Random.org.
Okay, so Walter McWilliams, you've got some minstrels on the way as well. I'll be in touch.
So actually, they're relatively recent patrons because they're high up in the numbers. Is that how that works?
No. So the numbers are alphabetical based on.
Oh, right. Okay. But,
that's the way it is. All right, guys, well done. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for your contributions. Let us know in the comments. Have a great and safe Christmas. It's a bit crazy this year.
Absolutely.
But hope everybody has a good time.
Stay safe and have a great time. Yeah.
And get some good ASL presents under the tree.
Yeah.
All the best, guys. Take care.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.